today. UFC 319 has ended, and we have a new middleweight champion of the world, and his name is Khamzat Chimaev. The wolf went on a hunt, but he definitely didn't make a kill, because it wasn't a lot that went on. Also, what about Lerone Murphy? What about Lerone Murphy, who elbowed his way to a featherweight title shot, possibly in December? And let's not forget about the man who knows how to throw a bow and light a dart. And we're talking about Carlos Prates. All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy, Matt. And we are here to talk about just three things, three situations, you know what I'm saying? Three news items, three things in general off of UFC 319. Now, we're going to get into some other stuff in some other videos, but on the tippy top, let's start out with these three. The main event, Dricus Du Plessis, the man that I picked to defend his middleweight championship, has lost to Khamzat Chimaev, who is now your middleweight champion of the world. Look, man, few days removed after the fight, I was extremely heated the night of the fight. But at the end of the day, man, fair play to Khamzat. Fair play to Khamzat. I see everybody going off about him not doing enough damage, him having the little 6-inch punches, that bing, you know what I'm saying? Because his 6-inch punches, they ain't like them Brock Lesnar against Frank Mir 6-inch punches, if you know what I'm talking about, if you was around during that time period. But nevertheless, bro, Khamzat Chimaev goes out there, and for 24 of the 25 minutes of this championship fight, he dominated Dricus Du Plessis, right? Not only did he dominate him, but he put him in the crucifix multiple times. Let me tell you, there was a lot of, as we're going to talk about, there was a lot of testifying and a lot of crucifixes on UFC 319. But your boy DDP, he died on the cross. You know what I'm talking about? He died on a rugged cross. You know what I mean? This dude, DDP, bro, got nailed to the cross and he couldn't get off of it, right? And let's just move right through it. Did Khamzat show extreme skill and grappling ability and top pressure? Yes, he did. Did he really do any damage to DDP? Not much at all. Did he, for the most part, hold him down for 5 rounds, and that's how he ended up winning the fight? Yes. But at the end of the day, man, it's fair play on him. If DDP couldn't find a way to make it back to his feet, then he couldn't find a way to make it back to his feet. Mark Goddard tried to do the I guess you could call it the right thing. I was down with it as a Dricus fan. He tried to stand him up a few times to give Dricus a little bit better of a chance, but it didn't go down that way. Khamzat, you know what I'm saying, the whole build-up of the fight, he looked like he was going to go in there and wage war, and the homie chose to go in there and be smart, be intelligent, lean to his strengths. Could he have done damage while having DDP and all those predicaments on the ground? Of course. When have you ever seen anybody get held in a crucifix for 5 rounds? You know what I'm saying? Of course. But he didn't choose to do that, and he is now your middleweight champion. And that's what it is. And, I could sit here and say, oh, if this would have happened, DDP could have did this. Yeah, woulda, coulda, shoulda. It is what it is, you know what I'm saying? In the words of Young Jeezy, that ain't this, and this ain't that, and bitch, I'm strapped. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what it is, bro. So, didn't really work out, but that's what it is. So, nevertheless, man, Khamzat Chimaev moves on. He is the new middleweight champion of the world, and it really got me to thinking. When you talk about fighters that were highlighted that night, because it got me to thinking, who's going to be the next person to fight Khamzat? Khamzat said on the microphone at the end of his fight that he wants to fight in Abu Dhabi, which goes down later on this year, October the 25th. Main event, Tom Aspinall defends the heavyweight championship against Cyril Gane. Khamzat wants on that card. He didn't take hardly any damage in this fight. He wants on that card. So it got me to looking at the people the UFC were highlighting that night. Caio Borralho was out in the crowd. They highlighted him. They highlighted Rener de Ridder. He was out there. Strangely enough, they highlighted Kamaru Usman. Because people forget. People forget, man. People forget, bro. Kamaru Usman came fresh off the couch. And if he had another round, he might have beaten Khamzat. Khamzat was gassed at the end of the third round when he fought Kamaru Usman. Khamzat barely won 2-1 on that fight. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, they're highlighting him. They're showing all these they're showing my guy Fluffy Hernandez. And it got me to thinking, who could they really put in there with Khamzat in October? Now, we got Nasruddin stepping in the octagon with Caio. I believe that fight goes down early September, right? That's a short amount of time, but definitely whoever wins that fight, if they win in an extremely convincing fashion, if they can make that timeline, it would be pushing it. I'm not sure if they could make it. They could get a title shot in Abu Dhabi against Khamzat Chimaev. However, I don't know if they can make it. And they can't go out there and get a decision win. One of those two men has to finish the other one in dramatic fashion. And that guy might have earned himself a title shot. But with that being said, if it's not a perfect scenario where somebody gets laid out, I don't know if they're going to be able to make that time frame or that timeline just by winning by decision, nor would the fans even want to see that. And the fact that the fight is in October and their fight is early September, right? So I don't know if that's reasonable. In my opinion, when I'm looking at the landscape in middleweight, and I'm looking at guys that the UFC might be looking at that we could throw Khamzat in there at Abu Dhabi. Hopefully he can go out there and get a win and we can keep this train rolling. It's got me thinking that if something happens in that main event between Nasruddin and Caio, and one of them can't do that quick turnaround, I'm feeling like it's probably going to be RDR or it's going to be Fluffy Hernandez. I'm thinking one of those two men is going to get a middleweight championship shot in Abu Dhabi, October the 25th, against Khamzat Chimaev. I think whoever's left who doesn't get that shot, there could be some interesting matchmaking on who fights Dricus next. I also think that if I was Kamaru Usman, that was the reason why I brought him up, as well as the UFC highlighted him. If I was Kamaru Usman, I would seriously be trying to ink a middleweight fight against a top-level middleweight because he did not look bad against Khamzat. And there's not much left for him at welterweight. I think, man, just go up and lean into your wrestling and hope that can carry you. I would look at that. Nevertheless, I think Khamzat is going to be fighting RDR or Fluffy Hernandez, one of those two, unless Nasruddin or Caio can make the turnaround and one of them wins in dramatic fashion on September. Anyway, let's move on. Co-main event. Lerone Murphy knocks out Aaron Piko in the first round with a spinning back elbow, which is right after the other fight I want to talk about. Carlos Prates knocks out Jeff Neal with a spinning back elbow. Let's talk about Lerone Murphy. The beginning of this fight, bro, Aaron Piko was all gas, no brakes. And he was throwing hands. He was throwing body shots. He was moving in. But then he started to move in with reckless abandonment. And Lerone Murphy picked up on that and timed the perfect shot. Caught him with a spinning elbow. Now Lerone Murphy is in a much better position. The fans got to see that on 319, which was probably a fairly good card as far as the sales of it. So a lot of people saw that. A lot of people hyped up about Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy kept it humble in his post-fight speech, but even Alexander Volkanovski has spoke out and said that he wants to face him in December. So we could be seeing Lerone Murphy get a featherweight title shot. Shout out to him, man. As for Aaron Piko, I don't really know. You could tell Aaron Piko, and he said as much. He said he was going to be. You could tell he was extremely nervous, and I think that nervous energy translated into him moving in with such recklessness. You know what I'm saying? Nevertheless, bro, I don't know who they're going to put him in there with next, but we will see. I don't know, man. Hopefully these former Bellator PFL guys can get on track. Carlos Prates. Man, he comes out there. He looks hype. He comes out there to the Rick Ross. You know what I'm saying? Daniel Cormier's highlighting the Rick Ross song. You know, he looks smooth. He was floating around the octagon. His stand-up looked perfect. He looked like he was in that flow state. He caught Jeff Neal multiple times with leg kicks that stifled him, caught him with some stiff jabs, some good counter shots. Jeff Neal kept moving forward and then moving straight back. There wasn't a lot of angles cut by Jeff, and that ended up being his demise. Nevertheless, Carlos Prates kept baiting him and getting him at that correct distance with that leg kick and with that solid jab, and then eventually unleashed a spinning back elbow. Jeff didn't see it coming, and that was all she wrote. Tremendous post-fight speech by Carlos Prates. Basically let everyone know he's back. He's in the driver's seat after that Ian Gary fight. Basically let everybody know he's going to keep on ripping darts. He's going to keep on smoking cigs. He's going to keep on drinking beers. He was doing as much in the post-fight press conference, you know what I'm saying? Bro, well on his way if he keeps up these wins of being a star in that welterweight division. And the UFC, now that they signed for $7.7 billion with Paramount, they on the lookout for stars. Are they trying to make them? No. Do they need them? Yes. They don't think so, but they do need them. Once again, are they trying to make them? No. But can you make yourself a star? Yes. And people need to look at Carlos Prates and see what I'm talking about. Jean Silva, another one. Look at these guys. Look at what they're doing, and you'll understand what I'm always preaching about guys who want the company to get behind them. Bro, you got to make the company get behind you. Facts. Nevertheless, man, just wanted to talk about those three fights. Those were the three fights that stood out the most, three moments that stood out the most to me about UFC 319. I'm going to dive into a couple other things and a little bit of the fallout on that in the next video. So please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know. All my Dricus Du Plessis fans still knocks. We still in it. Our boy ain't gone yet. But let me know. Was you shocked? Were you hurt? How did you feel about that loss by Dricus? Shout out to the Wolf, Khamzat Chimaev, your new champion. And once again, I do want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.